Leatherface. I walked into it. They were going to hire like a local hire. And I went in for a commercial audition. And in Los Angeles, when you go in for a commercial audition, there is different rooms. One will say room 1, Toyota. Room 2, Budweiser. And I saw TCM like in room 5. I was like, what? It can't be Texas Chainsaw Massacre. This is just commercials, right? And I called my commercial agent and said, can you ask that lady? Because I had booked, I forget what she was name, but I booked a Michelob Ultra commercial many years before. And he called and said, I said, just ask her if they've cast Leatherface. And if they have not, can I get on camera? She said, yeah, you can come in tomorrow. So I went to Salvation Army. I don't know if you guys know what that is. That's a thrift store. And I found a suit that was way too small for me, but I got it in it so I could look really bigger than I was, and fatter than I was. And went in the next day, and she said, what do you want to do? I said, just roll the camera. And I said, hey, Michael Bay, do not waste this opportunity, this character, on just some local hire. Because what they do with local hire, they'll find some actor in Texas, they'll find some ex-boxer, they'll find some ex-Dallas Cowboy football player who blew out his knee and is friends with the producer, and they'll give him the gig. And I said all this, and I said, Leatherface was a big, meaty son of a bitch. And I said a couple other things, and I believe, at least this is my story I've been telling, I think it was what happened. The girl working the camera, I picked her up real quick, and she said, put me down. And I said, I'll see you in Texas, with her over my shoulder. And now she's like, is that it? I said, that's it. And then I went, next day she called me and said, Michael Bay thought you were funny. You got the gig. And I was like, oh my God, I'm going to be Leatherface. And I started acting because I wanted to be in horror movies. I grew up watching The Outer Limits, Twilight Zone, George Romero's Night of the Living Dead, all this really cheesy horror flick called Children Should Play with Dead Things. And I was so into this stuff. I called 1,000 people. The first person I called was Ari Mihailov, who played Leatherface in part 3. I told him, and I probably called another 100 people in like a half hour. Guess who's Leatherface? It's me, click. Guess who's Leatherface? Me, click. And I kept calling these people. And she called back like 45 minutes later and said, by the way, don't tell anybody. So now I'm all screwed up. And I'm like, who did I call? I got to call back and say, please don't say nothing. Or they're giving me a different gig, And then, a couple months later, we're shooting. I do a couple scenes in it, and I got heat stroke. So, and I do the first kill in the movie. The first Leatherface you see is me with Kemper, the boyfriend. I kill him with the sledgehammer. That's what I'm always with my sledgehammer. And drag him through the house like Gunnar Hansen, and then slam the door. With my back, once you get heat stroke, your body's devoid of water. Your water's all out. And then tighten up the muscles in my back. So I believe I shot another thing, which you wouldn't be able to tell. And then Andrew Benarski came in and did a great job and replaced me and did a lot of all the chainsaw work. But it still was an awesome opportunity. I didn't talk about it for years. And then a couple of the magazines said, there was this other guy that played Leatherface. And I was like, why? And then I was embarrassed. Like, well, don't talk about it for God's sakes. I don't want anybody to know this, because I got hurt. And then, pretty soon a couple other magazines, Fangoria, Horror Hound. And then I was like, all right, I'll accept it. I was Leatherface for a week, as I like to say. And it was a great experience. I got to met all the guys. I did meet Gunnar. I brought 2 Funko Pops to get signed, and I said, I do the kill in the movie. He's like, I had no idea. He's like, I thought the other guy said he did it. I said, yeah, but that was me. I did the kill in the movie, and I tried to pay for those 2 Funko Pops to get signed, and he said, I'm not charging you. You're part of the family now. So I sat down with him for like an hour, which was great. He's such a nice guy. And then we just lost Bob Elmore, who passed away. It was in part, he's the stunt man. Did most of the work in part 2. There's Bill Johnson, and then Bob would do all the stunt work, and Bob just passed away. But I get to travel with these guys and go to conventions, and it's it's awesome. We get to meet a lot of the fans and get to hang out with Felissa Rose and do all that stuff. We do a podcast, it's actually a TV show that I think Screenbox is going to pick up as a show. So we got our contracts. We made a couple little changes, and hopefully Wednesday it's all good. And before the end of the year, you guys will be able to see the Killing Time Experience on on Screenbox.
That's awesome.
There you go. That's the story in a nutshell.
Hey, give you guys a round of applause too, because horror fans are the best fans in the world.
100%. Yes. Just a smidgen above pro wrestling fans.
Hey, that's
I was in that business too for a while. It was great. I loved the program. I got started, John. I mean, I ran the minor leagues, helped run the class, and for a company called Ultimate Pro Wrestling, where John Cena, Samoa Joe, and a whole bunch of guys came from. He used to get beat up by, Samoa Joe. You do not want to get chopped by that guy. We used to have a radio show together called Wrestling 101, and we did a thing in there, and it was a live broadcast, so people could watch it. And we did a thing, Chop Trivia. So we'd call a guy would call in, and we'd get to have one of the wrestlers there, one of the rookies. And if the guy answered the question wrong, Samoa Joe would chop him.
What was what name did you wrestle?
I wasn't a wrestler. I was like Bobby the Brain Heenan. I wrestled once and realized I'm better at being a manager and talking than I am at getting in the ring.
That's awesome too.
So yeah.
How long did that last?
About 5 years. If you're not on TV, back then you had WCW, WWF, and you could wrestle in Japan or you could wrestle in Mexico, and that was it. And ECW was just starting. So, but if you're not, I was too big, right? They're like, you're bigger than some of the wrestlers, so they just couldn't see it. Me being this big, loud guy, and then I got to work with the Road Warriors, the Hardy Boys, and took a pedigree from Triple H. Got to work with all these guys. And Chavo Guerrero, I keep seeing him. In fact, I got a concussion from Chavo Guerrero. He does a missile drop kick through the ropes. That's one of his signature moves. And I tripped him, and then I turned around, and I couldn't get all the way turned around before that missile drop kick came, and my head hit the railing. And then, I forget who he was working, but I had another spot to do. I had another thing I had to do, and they looked at me, and they figured, he's out of it. So, wrestling was fun, but I love acting. I've done a lot of cool stuff, the Crazies, which in 2000, Timothy Olyphant was a great movie. I get lit on, do a full burn in that thing. And, Buffy and Angel were great to work on. John dies at the end with one of my favorite directors, Don Coscarelli, fantastic. I've been blessed to be able to do this stuff. But, I've been acting I'm 57, so I've been acting since I was 21. So I have over 130 TV credits and movie stuff combined, and only a portion of that is horror. So I was on your favorite show, Hannah Montana.
Yeah, we talked about that yesterday.
So I've been Sons of Anarchy, all this stuff, but we're very blessed. Anime. I do voiceovers, but I've never landed one of those good anime gigs. But we're very blessed that there's so many horror conventions out there. We call it the con life, where we get to travel around and meet the fans. And, last week I was in Omaha. This week we're in OKC. Next week I'm in New Hampshire. And then after that I go to Germany. Germany's not, the flight's not fun, but, so we're very blessed to be able to do that. And then between, you film some movies. It's not bad.
As tall as you are, though, you did get first class.
I don't get first class, but I get premium economy.
We gotta get you upgraded, my guy.
I gotta get some more movies. Under my belt, some bigger movies, and then we'll be able to get upgraded soon.
What would you say outside of horror, film-wise, was your favorite project that you did?
The first movie I ever did was with Robin Williams. It was called Bicentennial Man. And I got to, Robin Williams Christopher Columbus was the director. He directed Mrs. Doubtfire, and he directed a couple of Harry Potter's, the first Harry Potter movie. And so when you're getting ready for a scene, Robin Williams will tell a joke, and then he'll go, all right, we're getting ready, and then he'll stop the joke, we'll do our scene, and then when he says cut, he'll finish his joke. And I was there for 2 weeks, and the last day of filming, right where they go, all right, well, it's a wrap on Bret Wagner, and they claps. I started it into a joke, and everybody's like, Robin Williams is like, uh-oh. And I tell this joke, and I do the punchline, and nobody laughs, and Robin Williams says, Stick to your day job, kids. Stick to your day job. And everybody started laughing. I was like, oh, thank God everybody's laughing now. But that was pretty cool to work with Robin Williams. Obviously, I love comedy and I love improv, and he's the best ever do it. Jim Carrey, Robin Williams, these guys are just phenomenal. Their brain works at a different speed than ours. And I'll tell you who else is like that. Derek Mears, who played Jason in the remake, is an amazing comedy improv guy, if you've never known that. So, there you go.
Awesome. Would you like to open them up for some questions?
Yeah, we got any questions, guys?
Guys, look, that red carpet right there is for y'all.
Oh, yeah, you gotta get on that microphone. Yeah, someone stand up.
Yeah, y'all, all you have to do
Come
is
on,
get up there and
come on,
get
wait.
that
All
mic.
right, young lady. Yes.
Don't be shy, make a line.
When you did Leatherface, how long was it for you to be in makeup?
You know, I don't remember. Scott Starter is the guy that did our makeup and our mask and everything. I don't think it was that long, to be honest with you. I think the Crazies was like 3 hours because it was different applications. I think getting the costume on, which was so hot, was the toughest thing. And the mask, it wasn't that bad. It's 21 years ago, so if I told you an hour and a half, 2 hours tops, that's really nothing. Not bad at all. So it was super hot. I will tell you. I have very small forearms, so they wanted me in a thermal to make sure my forearms didn't look too. Then they put those gauntlets over our arms, so it looked like I was bigger than I was, or at least my forearms were. So it was so hot, and that's I succumbed to heat stroke instead. I should have drank 7 Gatorades before. But yeah, the costumes are, especially as you get older, if you're not Doug Jones, do we all know who Doug Jones is? Doug is an amazing creature work guy. He's also on Star Trek. He was in what was that movie a couple years ago, won the Academy Award? With the water, the creature from the blood, like the creature thing. Shape of Water, thank you very much. So Doug is the creature in that. Now let me tell you something, Doug has to stay in such good shape. So he can, that thing, who knows how long that was? That was probably a 6 or 7 hour costume to get into. So if you are not in tremendous shape for that, you are going to succumb to what I did too. And it could be even worse. Next question, last couple questions. Come on, anybody? Tall lady, nothing? That's you. You seem to be tall.
Guys, these panels are for y'all.
Yeah.
This is the opportunity to ask
This
those
is
questions.
it. This is your last chance. Because I'm going to go back to the table. Yes?
What was your favorite that you worked on?
I mean, I'm a biker. So when I got Sons of Anarchy the first season, I was pretty stoked. Because I come riding on the set, with all these actors, and I'm riding my Harley, and I'm like, that was a real deal, not you guys. But they were all great. Kim Coates, who plays Tig on it, was already a friend of mine from Waterworld and a whole bunch of other stuff. Such a good actor. And Charlie Hunnam was great. I had no idea he was from England. How do you do it, mate? I'm like, what? This guy's English. And then to be honest with you, I love doing the Nickelodeon shows and Disney High Def. And Hannah Montana was fun. And, she was great. And I love improv. I love comedy. So, there's just so much stuff. It's just, I would have to look back on my IMDb page and see what stuff I did. But I really did like doing the comedy stuff. We don't often get a lot of chance because we're big characters. Robert Meeks downstairs, from House of a Thousand Corpses. He's a very funny guy, but people in Hollywood see us as these big brutes. So, which is fine. I'd love to make a living being a scary guy. I don't care. My mom didn't like it. Can you play a normal thing? And then on Monster Garage, my name was the Big Schwag. Big Schwag here, Long Beach, California. And my mom said, can you use your regular name? I said, no, it's already branded with the Big Schwag, so that's what we're sticking with. But yeah, she hated me playing skinheads and sex offenders and all that kind of stuff. I said, Mom, I'd have you watch this show, but I'm playing a sex offender. So she's like, I'm not going to watch it. I'm like, okay. Anything else?
Waterworld is one of my guilty pleasures.
Great, but it's yes, sir. Get into that microphone.
I I'll say Marvel, I'm ready.
Oh, you're just, hallelujah? Okay. Yes, big man.
Whenever, what do you feel that most, like, is your favorite scene where you've just walked in and you're feeling it and you're like, I am an actor, and you're just kind of in the zone? Can you recall, like, maybe?
Well, I can tell you, I just did 2 movies recently. This director, a young guy, Sean C. Phillips. It's called Desert Fiends. It's goes back to like the 80s. Very kind of funny, gross humor. Hills Have Eyes. I killed Scout Taylor Compton and a whole bunch of other people. And I get to be this crazy kind of creature, this mutant named Papa. And he let me just be funny. You know, I killed Bai Ling. And I'm like, ooh, I love sushi in the morning. Bai Ling is Asian. So that was my line that I used. And it was very funny, I thought. And so, I mean, that's a very fun thing. Of course, Sons of Anarchy was great because I got to ride my Harley every day. And, you know, it just depends. I mean, you know, this is when you know, when you go in for an audition and you feel really good. You know, sometimes you know you go in there. Most of the time, it's how you look, right? If I need a killer clown that's over 300 pounds, it's a big bruiser. I can just look at you and know you're going to do it, right? I got you. So a lot of it is just a look. And then if they, you know, so there'll be 100 people that go in for an audition for one role, they'll whittle it down to like 20. And some of it's because they're really good in the audition, some of it's like it's the right look, you know? And then you get those 20, then they kind of break it down into 2 or 3 guys. And then they choose the one they want, and then they choose a backup. So, but it's, you know, I got to work with Bill Moseley last Monday, on a short film, which I was ecstatic to do because he's just one of the most wonderful guys and a great actor, and just so creepy that it was awesome. So, you know, yeah, there's still stuff coming up that I'm excited about. I've got a couple movies with Felissa Rose we're going to shoot this year. And we do our own, like I said, we do our show, Killing Time Experience, which is also great to get to, you know, interview people that I'm a fan of, that I'm a fanboy of. All right, last question. Anybody? All right, now listen. Who's coming up next? Robert Muse.
Yeah, that's right.
All right, so I want you to stick around for the 6'10.5". The guy who also is in the new Texas Chainsaw Massacre game, he's a character named Hands in there, and he uses a hammer, I believe. He's killing people with a hammer in his hand, something like that. And House of a Thousand Corpses, Westworld, that TV show. And Crimson Harvest, which is a movie from Felissa Rose. I think we're filming already filmed, so. I appreciate you all for coming out. And, you know, there's going to be a new Texas Chainsaw Massacre right now. People are arguing which director is going to take it, so there's a whole bunch of people that are vying to be the director. The guy from Strange Darlings who directed that, J.T. Mulder, I believe is his name. And someone there saying the guy's Jordan Peele, you know, and then the guy that did Long Legs, Anthony Perkins' son. His last name's Perkins, I don't know his first name. But they're all always trying to figure out who's going to be the next director of this thing. I'm pretty excited. I think that this franchise will keep going forever. Hopefully it's all good. Is we all good? All right? Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Clap for him! Clap for him, yes. Thank you, guys.